Green. Start off with the website. Hello, everyone. My name is Molly Yanis, and I'm the founder of Echo Consulting, who developed StrAlign, which is a project prioritization and strategic decision-making app. Today, we're going to be doing a quick demo of StrAlign and taking some questions about project prioritization. This is great timing. As you may know, we're probably coming up on budgeting and annual planning, and you might be starting to think about what those strategic goals are as we head into the second year of COVID and all that that entails. So today we're going to talk a little bit about StrAlign. It is what we call a working prototype. So it is something that we have built we have used this tool for many years with clients, specifically on project portfolio management and strategic decision making, as we start to think about different features or functionality or requirements or projects that they might take on in their organization. What we found was that there were kind of three components of this process, and it was difficult with the tools that they had at hand. So the first thing was to actually identify what those strategic goals are, and different organizations have different ways of coming up with those goals, whether you're using OKRs or strategic objectives or SMART goals or what you're doing. So kind of what is providing that overarching view of where your company is going, where your team is going, what you're trying to accomplish in the long term, as well as those short-term, more measurable goals. Then we have this concept of all of these different projects and ideas and features that we have an amazing team that we've built, and you have an amazing team on your team that has all these different, you have an amazing team on your team. You have an amazing team with team members that have great ideas. How do you harness their passion and their creativity and their specific experience to identify those opportunities, but then find a way to funnel those opportunities down and really pick what is most important for your team? And then how do we bridge that gap between the goals that are often set by our executive leaders, our senior leaders, and the ideas and the creativity from the people across the organization that might be closer to the customer, might be closer to your product, and really understand the impact the different projects or initiatives will have on the end users, whoever those are. And that's where StrAlign comes in. It's bridging the gap between that strategic long-term visibility about where your organization is going with the specific tactical ideas that your organization is looking to implement to achieve those goals. So with StrAlign, what we're looking to do is get team sourced input on projects and ideas and what the priority is, measure them against your strategic goals and objectives, and provide you with a calculated list, prioritized list of ideas to get you started so that you really feel confident that what you are working on is going to be the most impactful for your organization. So today we're going to jump into the actual demo of StrAlign. If you want more information, we have a basic marketing page up called StrAlign.com. It does include some product overview, just some really quick screenshots of the different components. StrAlign is up and available for what we call beta testing. So if your organization is heading into an annual planning, heading into that budgeting season, you need either support, either setting those strategic objectives, gathering those ideas, and or bridging those gaps. We'd love to talk to you about how StrAlign can help you bridge that gap. We're looking for organizations that want to test out the software and give really great feedback so that we can take StrAlign to the next level and build it out for a more enterprise solution longer term. All right, so with that, I'm going to jump right in. So different organizations collect projects and ideas in different ways. StrAlign can work with any organization, whether or not you have that list in Excel or you have it in a project management system or a product management backlog in Jira. For this initial prototype, what we're doing is we can just kind of take that export from whichever system you currently have in place. If you don't have a system in place and you are looking to get those new ideas in, we have really basic forms that we can set up in a variety of different ways, whether it's Google Forms or Microsoft Forms, or we even have one in Smartsheet, which is kind of the back end of StrAlign. So The most basic information that we need is kind of what that project name is. Typically, we recommend having some sort of sponsor. So whether it's a team sponsor or a specific person, and a brief project description. And this has a maximum of about 250 characters because we do use it in the app itself. And we like to know who the requested by is. So this is a extremely simple intake form. We have other examples as well. So you can go more in depth in terms of, okay, what's the project name? It could be idea name. It could be initiative name based on your organization, who the sponsor is. And then you can even go so far. We actually have a client right now on StrAlign that already has their strategic objectives, like kind of in these kind of core pillars of what their organization is working on for a year. And so they use kind of a multi-select, all right, we're going ahead. This project is going to impact brand reach and profits, right? So they're kind of doing a selection. We even can pull in some different components if your team, the people that are submitting ideas or projects, can provide a basic understanding of the schedule or what they're currently estimating. We can certainly capture that information in an intake form, but it's not required to use StrAlign. I'm just kind of letting you know we can have more detailed information, but at minimum, we need that project name that people will recognize and a brief project description. The other pieces are helpful, but not needed. So once you have this list of projects, and so in our case, we'll just show you really quick what our list of projects is that we're starting from. And again, you can just do it in Excel, but if you have a system already in place, so we have this list of projects that we have in this test scenario submitted. So we might want to do social account authentication. Maybe we have an upgrade to our e-com site. Maybe we want to implement a returns manager or something like that. These are the projects that we're considering. So this is the project piece. The next piece is understanding what our strategic drivers are. Now, with strategic drivers, strategic goals, strategic objectives, OKRs, I mean, objectives, depending on the way your organization works, you might have a list of goals or things that you guys are focused on. Again, this is typically a longer term concept. So, okay, what does the next year or 3-year plan look like? What are those pillars that are guiding our organization to understand what we're shooting towards? And these tend to be higher level. When you start talking about actual like specific measures, then we're talking about like, okay, we actually want to increase profit by 10% or 20% or something like that. We actually have teams using StrAlign right now in both ways. So one would be increase profit, very high level, just more of a directional concept, which is pretty typical across organizations. They're looking to increase their profit. But other organizations, actually, you can have up to 250 character here. So you could say something like increase revenue by 30% over the next year or something more specific here. What you're looking at is a view that would typically be given to someone that we call is on your strategic leadership team. So whether it's like a leader in your organization that is looking at, here are all of the goals that we have in play. Maybe we want to add a new goal. So we're saying, you know what, maybe we want to add a goal of, let's see here. What do we have for a goal, Melissa? Let's see here. So improve net promoter score, for example, right? So we could add another goal if we wanted. Now, typically what we're recommending is, oopsies. So let me take a step back. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the different goals that already exist. So increase profit, reduce cost, diversify revenue. One of the things that we noticed when we were working with clients is they had these big goals. They did this annual planning exercise, but then COVID hit. Well, hopefully not again, but some other major change happened in the organization. It could be a positive change. It could be a huge contract that came in for a new client where now we really aren't focused on biz dev anymore. We're really focusing on how do we operationalize so that we can actually meet that need. Or maybe it was a complete changeover in like a turnover or some other component. But over the course of the year, over the course of months and quarters, whichever way your organization works, the priority of different goals changed. Similarly, when we came into this strategic leadership team, oftentimes we were seeing situations where, for example, finances goals didn't map exactly to what marketing goals were, or IT's goals or sales. They all had different understandings. So even though they might have this list of 4 or 5 strategic goals that everyone was supposed to get behind, they weren't all created equally. So how do we account for the fact that we have these big driving goals, strategic objectives, but maybe they're not all ranked the same way? So what we started looking at is how we weight them. And again, when we were doing initial revs of this with annual planning and strategic planning with our clients, we did it actually in Excel, did some calculation, did some weighting, like 50% weighting, 100%. We wanted to do is provide more of a sliding scale, a more interactive user experience with StrAlign, where you could see what the goals were and you would be able to rank them comparatively to each other, so that when you start comparing different projects into it, you can actually account for which goals are most important at any one given time. Okay. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to say, you know what, I've already done one previously. Maybe I've already created this last year for finance or last quarter. And last quarter, increasing profit and reducing costs were really important to me on the finance team. But diversifying revenue wasn't something that was as important to me. Improving quality wasn't. All right, but for right now, I'm seeing that something new happened. We lost a major client or something like that. So new client acquisition has become much more important. And in this case, I'm going to say, all right, so I did finance. That was kind of, I want to compare back and forth to what I did last year or last quarter. I'm going to say finance 2021 in this case. So I'm going to create a new comparison chart in terms of what the priority of different goals were. And as I said, I'm going to create a new strategic goal, which is improve NPS. And I'm going to say that improving net promoter score is really important for referrals. Increased client satisfaction is important. Compliance, I'm less important about, something like that. If I don't want to count that goal for some reason, I'm going to decrease employee attrition. So I'm going to click submit. So what I've done is I've basically created a profile for finance that says this is what I think the most important goals are. This is how I think that projects should be ranked. Does that make sense to everyone? All right, so that's from, again, the strategic leader side. So I've seen this done both ways. I've seen it where teams of 3 or 5 people, even 7, come together. They have their kind of meeting, they're identifying what these goals are, and then they actually all together put their rankings in terms of what goals are most important. I've also seen this happen very successfully where this gets sent out to each member of the senior leadership team. They each have their own individual ranking of how important they think different goals are. Then they come together and they look at all those different rankings and compare and contrast where there are differences. But that's just one component. So one is identifying the goals and ranking them, thinking about what goals are most important, and understanding that that changes over the course of time. And then we might want to see those trends of how those priorities change. The other component is back to our project list, is actually looking at, here's an individual project. So upgrading the e-com website, and having an individual user like Melissa, for example, say, how much does Melissa think that upgrading the e-com website is going to improve profitability? Upgrading the e-com website, Melissa, or Molly in this case, says it's going to be, it definitely is going to improve profitability. I have a high degree of confidence. I'm going to give it a 4. Reducing costs, I think it's going to have a solid reducing cost. Diversify revenue, absolutely, because we're going to add a whole new product line on there. Expand brand reach, definitely, because our e-commerce site has really helped us back. It's not going good on search. Improving the quality of the products, probably not so much. So I'm going to give this a 1 and I'm going to click submit. So now, as an individual user, Molly, who may be on the customer service team, she might be on the marketing team, she might be on the IT team, right? Who you pass this out to, who you enable to provide individual input, changes again on the organization and on what level of information you're providing and you're configuring StrAlign with. So you could have very specific targeted KPIs that a specific team is responsible for, right? And that's where these could come into the prioritization, or it could be super high level strategic objectives across the whole organization with super high level projects here as well. So again, different uses of this, but what you're really trying to do is get individual people input on how important this goal is how important this project is to mapping back to what your strategic goals are. So I can keep doing this. So this is one way to do this, right? It is mobile friendly. So what we're looking to build into this right now is like saying like, okay, I've got 2 minutes. So what you're seeing here for the new product launch is maybe I've just added a new goal. I don't need to go fill this out for everything all over again for new product launch, but maybe I've added this new goal of improving quality. So I'm only going to need to vote on new product launch, improving quality one time. So this is one way to vote. Another way to vote is actually what we call pairwise comparison. There's been really interesting studies about decision making, and when you have too much information and or you have numbers, it can actually intimidate people and feel like maybe they don't have the best information. So oftentimes what we can do is we can take a step back, and maybe people that are either more junior in your organization or are less confident about what those different projects and what those goals are, you can instead look for very instinctual quick decisions and look for like a quantity of them and looking across. So in this case, I've got two different projects, social account authentication and implement product reviews. And I can say which one is more important. Okay, I think social account authentication is more important, right? Do I think updating subscription offerings is more important than social authentication? No, I think, again, social account authentication is more important. Oh, but the supplier management portal is really important. This is more important than social account authentication. So in this case, I'm making a very quick one-to-one decision, right? I'm not looking at a specific goal in this case. I'm saying which one is more important, this one or that one, this one or that one. And I'm making quick instinctual decisions based on my current knowledge of that. The other option we have for voting and getting individual input on ideas is to say, okay, this or that in comparison to this goal. So which one of these is going to have a better impact on increasing profit? Is social account authentication or is the new product launch? Which one is going to increase profit more? Oh, okay, I'm going to do the new profit launch. I think that's going to. So again, I'm making this or that decisions. I have a very limited scope that I'm looking at, and I'm making an instinctual decision. What's interesting is once you're getting this data, it's really interesting to see what the trends are from this data, either within specific teams or within specific organizations within your kind of broader organization. So marketing versus finance, which ones they think the projects are most important. And it gives you the opportunity as a senior leader to start diving into where there might be some misalignment within your organization, or maybe there needs to be more communication about what this project is going to do, what the benefits of the project are going to be, what the anticipated return on investment is, right? So again, driving conversations. Okay, so great. We have passed this out. We've sent it out to different people on our teams. We've started to get their input. We're asking for them to tell us why these things are. So what's the next step? What we're going to do is we're going to take the strategic drivers that have been set by our leadership. We're taking our individual votes, depending on how we've collected it from individuals on our teams. And we're going to start from a very basic. Now, StrAlign provides this information in Excel, and it has some basic graphics. It includes it in Smartsheet. We have some dashboarding capabilities, but for the very basics kind of starting point in the app itself, what we've done is we've allowed you to pick some different components. So we have finance here versus we just created that new finance one, right? So we're going to say, okay, finance versus finance. Oh, I just created that one. So let me actually do one that I've already done before. So finance versus finance. And now I'm comparing these different projects and how they've been ranked based on previous votes, right? So finance thinks that the most important project is supplier management portal. Marketing thinks that the most important is supplier management portal. There's alignment here. So you can see where this could also be broken out. So if you had 3 or 4 or 5, so one of our other clients right now does it. I think they have 4 different teams that they're looking at. So they're comparing 4 across, and we've kind of color coded which one's the most important. So it looks like there's pretty consistent understanding that supply management portal is the most important project. But then there's maybe not quite as much alignment here, where you've got the marketing team thinking that enhancing KPI dashboards really isn't as important as adding a chat box for service or inventory control enhancements or some other project. They actually think that implementing returns management manager is more important than anything else, right? So you're starting to dig into the data, comparing, saying like, okay, based on finances look at what the most important goals are versus marketing's look at what the most important goal is, which projects are most important. Does that make sense? Any questions on kind of that really high level overview of the concept? So now I'm looking at finance versus IT. So again, going back again, very quick overview. So what we're looking to do is we're comparing different projects and ideas. We're voting on different project impact on specific goals. We're ranking our strategic goals, what goals are most important. And then we're comparing the different runs, like the different prioritization of goals, what projects will be most important based on this. One of the things that I talk a lot about with my clients is that it's not we're not looking to replace human decision making. What we're looking to do is provide team sourced data. So, how do we get input from individual members of our team? Not in a great meeting where people might say something, and if we don't go with their decision, they feel like their input wasn't actually captured. Not in a way where we have an open comment box of ideas and we put it in there. And if that project idea doesn't come to the top of the list, people feel like their input wasn't actually included. A lot of where other tools are going right now in idea management and innovation management is very much oriented to upvoting. So this concept of here's an idea and like I can upvote, but I don't have any ability to say like this or that. I don't have any ability. I can upvote every single thing. I can go to my manager's ideas and do this. What we're trying to do here is provide an extra layer where you're really making a compare contrast. You're making a ranking decision, providing that kind of that barrier here to who submitted it or what other people thought, and instead get individual input, ranking it, understanding that strategic goals change over time. So what might be most important at this exact moment might change in the next quarter. So even though, so anytime that you have individual input voting, you can change the priority of the different goals and different projects will come out on top, right? The data about how likely a new product launch is to impact profitability is less likely to change than the importance of new customer acquisition if you have just, for example, gotten a brand new huge project or a huge client that is, already tripled your revenue for the year. So how do we become more flexible and understand that it changes over the course of time? This is a most basic view of the results. We typically customize the review of the results for different clients. We have some dashboards, and we obviously have a CFO that loves using it, and he just prefers to have it in Excel and do the pivots himself. What we're looking to do with StrAlign for this initial pass is to provide that user interface to be able to gather data at an individual level, be able to change those weightings, and to provide output from which the senior leadership team can make more data informed decisions. And with that, that was my very quick demo of StrAlign. Melissa, if we want to go ahead and stop the recording, and then just because Jesse and Casey know us, we can open it up for questions.